Hey guys, Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil, and I'm getting ready to start my bin rebuild, which is my compost bin rebuild. Now, I've got one that's been working for me just fine for the last 2 or 3 years, but it was really a temporary one, and I didn't have any real supplies to build an actual permanent bin, and it works. I mean, I've gotten plenty of good compost, as you can see around my garden. I use it everywhere and I get good results from it, but it could always be better. And I kind of want something that's a little bit more sturdy, that's not going to get blown around with the wind, and has a larger top opening for when I'm shoveling in compost. So that's why I'm doing it. And although I'm not going to start using it until this compost is out of it, I will be reusing the weed barrier cloth that's utilizing for the bin, and that's just going to protect the wood for the compost bin just for a little bit longer from the actual compost that's inside of it. So let's go ahead. We're going to start breaking down pallet boards. That way we can start to see what wood we have, what wood we can use, and figure out the dimensions that we actually want to go for. So we have our pallet for our compost bin right here, and what I'm going to do is start taking off each one of these boards. That way I can use them at whatever size I need, and because this, if I just put up all the pallets as are, it'll be too big for my space that I have. I know that sounds like a oxymoron, too much of a compost bin, but it really is. I'm looking for the right dimensions and to fit my space. I've got a 4-foot tall chain link fence that I don't really want the compost bin to be much taller than, and I really don't want it to be wide. I want it to sort of kind of be a square profile to it, with a little bit more capacity, probably about double the capacity what I've got now. So that's what we're going to get started on working towards. That's it. Alright, so right here you can see a bunch of wood, and all of this is just deconstructed pallets that I had. I believe I had 4 of them, and what I'm doing now is these are all going to be pieces that are going to be used to build my upgraded and better compost bin. So as of right now, I've been splitting the wood because these are going to probably be my studs for it. And there's a lot of this punky wood that's just all messed up or whatever. It can still be used. Don't throw these away. Don't neglect them, because wood is wood. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not like it's going to support a house or my raised bed. It just basically has to hold in compost. So the hardest part of it all has been all of the nails. And there's a bunch of these other ones, because sometimes these boards do not like to get rid of their nails and they stay stuck in there. So you pretty much got to like cut them out. And then what I had to also do is grind them down. That way when I'm handling them, because I don't like wearing gloves when I'm working, just to make sure I don't cut myself on it. I still got to clean up all these nail heads that are over here on the ground before the dogs step on them or something like that. But I've got it all broken down, and then down here is all the planks. So the next step after I finish cutting, like I said, I got this one to cut still. These have all been cut in half. I'll probably end up cutting some of these ones down too, but after I do that, it'll be time to figure out which boards are going to be for what, because I'm going to have 4 sides and a lid. A lid's going to open up for loading in compost, but it's going to shut down so that the rain can cast off of it so it doesn't get too wet. And then the front side, I'm going to have that be detachable too. So yeah, we're just got some work still to be done. It's coming along. I'm starting to get to the easy part, because trust me, getting all those nails and the boards off without breaking every last one of them was a literal pain. Right now what I'm going to do, since I've already got 3 of my walls built, I'm going to go ahead and start framing up the 4th door, which is going to be basically the door. It's the 4th wall though. So here we go. So we've got 1 stick here and another here. Now the most important part of this is going to be the fitment, because we're going to have a little bit extra on the sides that's going to end up being trimmed off once it's built, just to make sure the door can be snug and is easy to come on and off whenever I need it. We'll take my first board, which is right here. And I'm sorry if the wind is picking up. I'll have to double check it here in a minute. The biggest part of this is making sure you get everything square, and that could be somewhat of a pain sometimes. Sometimes it's not. It just depends on whether or not your design has any kind of wiggle room in it. And while I'm going for as square as possible, I typically will sit there and say that, you know, usually my builds are about a hair from square, which just means that they're stable enough to do the job that they need to do. But if you went with a square and tried to go ahead and check the symmetry, it might be just a little bit off. And I'm fine with a little bit off, because this is not going to be like a house or something that really needs to bear weight. All I need is for this thing to work and to hold together when there's a bunch of compost in it. But it also needs to come apart easily so I can unload that compost when it's done, or to flip it. Let's see here. Now I've got my drill bit put in. Here's my square. So usually what I'll do is since these 2 strips here were actually a bigger board that I cut in half to use for this project. So what I'm going to do is this. Okay, so the cut ends that I cut, since they may not be perfect, I'm going with the outsides to check my square, because these are pretty much straight piece of wood. So I know that the overhang of the top and bottom boards are going to be about 1/4 of an inch. This doesn't necessarily need to be as accurate, because like I said, it's either going to be the top or the bottom. The bottom's going to be on the ground, so you won't be able to see it, and the top's going to have a lid on it, and I kind of want the boards that are on the top to be carrying the weight of the lid once I get there. So here we go, making a square. And right now it doesn't really matter about that board over there, because all we're worried about is this one here. This is just here to support it while I'm doing this. Alright, that's about it. Actually, I messed up, because I need my clamps to hold it. Okay, so now that I've already checked that it's square, again, I'm going to do it here, and that's nice and squared. I'm going to take my clamp here, and we're going to put this on here. making sure that doesn't move. And again, check. Everything works fine. So now we're gonna do our drill. Now, the screws that I have been using, because these strips are a little bit more thinner than the other ones that we've been using. Don't mind that, that was just rubber. They're gonna be a little long, because I want these to be recessed inside of the board here, so it's a flat surface for when I go to put my landscape fabric on. So we're gonna go to using these cheaper screws that are shorter, and I'll just recess them about halfway so they'll go down into the wood, into both pieces. I did have some slightly longer ones, but they're not here anymore. Well, I've got some other ones here, these ones here that could work, but you know what, I might just use these ones. It wasn't part of the plan, but looks like it will be now. So I decided to show you guys a close-up view of what I was talking about in the video, and thanks to my buddy Dave at BowtieLife in the Garden, this hole is properly pronounced countersunk. So this is what we do. First, I will take this smaller drill bit, which is smaller than the diameter here. So we take this on, we're going to do our pilot hole first. And again, this pilot hole is so that you don't split the wood when you go to drive the screw into it. So we'll go ahead and make that pilot hole. Alright, so now we have our hole here. Pop that bit off. Take this bigger bit. Now the key with this is, this bit has to fit roughly the same size as the head of the screw. Just drop the screw. So we're going to go ahead and open up the chuck, sink it down. Also make sure that when you're drilling, your clutch up here is set to the drill. Alright, so now we don't want to go too far into it where the depth is, say this was a 3x6 or something, and you had a 3-inch nail. You don't want to go too far into the wood so that when you go to crank down tension on it, that it breaks through the bottom. So you just want to basically get it deep enough so that that head is under the surface or countersunk. So take this, light pressure, a little speed. You don't need a whole lot. Depending on how far you want to go in is where your measurement should be at. So say if I wanted to go exactly this deep in it, you can take masking tape and put it around the bit itself, so as you're driving down, you know to stop when it hits the bottom of that masking tape. Since this is a demonstration, I'm not quite doing that. Now, with the screw I decided to use, I prefer the Torx headed screws when I'm doing stuff like trying to drive into wood, because they slip out. Or what I mean by that is, sometimes with the Phillips head screws, they will shear and break off, and the next thing you know, it's spinning, but this isn't going in. So with the Torx head screws, you get more bite, and it's less likely that the screw is going to strip out on you. So now that we've done that, what I also do when I go to put the screw in, I turn down my chuck a little bit. So most of the time 17 is fine, sometimes I can go to 18 or 19. But we're going to try this on 17 and see how this works. So now, you just stick it in, and you send it. You start off slow until it bites into the pilot hole, and then after that you just send it through. And see what the chuck does when you set it at that 17 is when it gets enough tension, it slips and it stops trying to destroy the head of the screw, or stops trying to destroy the bit that you're driving it with. So now that that's complete, you can see we have a countersunk screw. So now that we've got this clamped up, we're drilling our hole so that the wood does not split. If you drill down into these pieces of wood, there's a highly likelihood that it's going to split. So to try to keep that splitting to a minimum, we're going to drill our holes. So get roughly in the middle, a good ways over, and alright, there we go. And then my little secret of making sure that I keep my holes is I take long nails, sort of kind of like a dowel, and I stick them in there. And it's not a tight fit, it's loose fit, but for the most part it holds and keeps the position of my board. So here I'll do a second. And now we are done there. And to double check that this has not moved, I think it moved just a little bit, but that's okay too, because we still got some play in it. Alright, so we got those two holes. Now, since we've already cut the boards to the proper length, the next thing's going to be, let's move you guys up a little bit. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is, these boards are already cut to length. And I know, again, that there needs to be some overhang, but I think I overshot it on the other side a little bit. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and check the spacing on this. Alright, on these old, I'm going to have to use these other ones that you guys can't see. They're a little short of 3 foot. Like 1.25 inches short of 3 foot. Actually, I have not overshot it. Okay, good. So I do have enough space here still. So what we're going to do now is move this over and in. Let go of this. We're going to need it here in a second. Okay, got my 1/4 inch. Or not my 1/4 inch, but so I got a 1/4 inch up here. And this is about 1.5 inches off the side. Let me get that squared up. Come down a little bit. Alright, that's our position. So again, we're going to take the clamp. You know what? I'm going to go this way this time. Alright, clamps in. Now we do our holes. The reason I decided to go here is because we've got a crack right here and right here. So in order to keep this and make it work as best as possible, I'm going to try to put the screw here in good wood and another piece right here, or another screw right here where the wood's good as well. So hopefully it'll hold it better and longer before it deteriorates. And I got to replace these boards. So here we go. Come on. One hole. And our second hole. Go right here. Alright, now we're going to check our square again. and then it gets its nails as well to hold its space. Alright, so now what we've got to do, you know what, I'm going to hold that there, because actually the next thing is going to be, since we're using these screws, I need them to be under the surface. So that means what I'm going to do now is find a screw, or I'll just use this one. I got to find a drill bit whose diameter is basically the same as the button top on the screwdriver I'm going to use, or on the screw I'm going to use. So for instance, this bit is about the same size as the head of this screw. So because of that, we are going to replace the bit that we were using to drill a hole with, and this is how I'm going to make I don't know if it's called a pocket screw, or anyways, it's going to make that screw head be underneath the level of the board, so that I have a flat surface. Alright, I did that one. Oops, that was a little too deep. That's the thing you run into, is if you don't do it perfectly, you might go a little too deep. And if you go too deep, that means it's going to come out the back side of the board. Right now, I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me if that happens. I can trim it out with my Dremel. I just rather not have to. And because this is going to be rinse and repeat during this whole process, I'm not going to make you look at all of this as I'm doing them, because it would be a video that's way longer than it needs to be. This is just me showing you my process, which for some it might be backwards, others it might make sense. This is just the way I've been doing it, and I'm taking my time when I'm doing it too, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm not going to make any regretful mistakes later on that's harder to fix. So, alright, now put these screws in. Alright, there we go. And actually, there's a couple of them I'm going to drill a little bit further into, because they weren't as deep as I like them. Alright, that one's good, that one's good. So everything's below the surface of the board. Okay, just to show you what I mean, see how that's below grade? And then here's the other two, they're also below. Because when I get done, this is going to be the inside facing surface of my compost bin, and I'm going to be putting some weed fabric on it to make it a smooth surface to protect the wood, but also to make pulling out of the compost, pulling it out easier. And I don't want to have spaces and gaps in the boards where the compost can fall through. Here's some finished boards here. So as you can see on these finished boards, there's a gap, and since, like I said, I don't want compost to fall outside of the bin through these gaps, so all of these surfaces are going to be covered with the high-end weed fabric. Alright, now that we've got both of these on, and we don't necessarily need to check for squareness again, let's flip it over to the other side. Now I'm going to grab another board. Alright. And because these are obviously from the pallets, they're not going to be like perfect boards. That doesn't really matter for this because, like I said, it's how to use stuff that's free and available, and it doesn't have to look the prettiest, it just needs to work, right? That's what I think. So, what we're going to do is rinse and repeat, everybody. First we're going to scrub this side. Get that 1/4 inch lip on it. And then about 1.5 inches or so on the side here. We're going to take my clamp. Trying to put my clamp where it's going to make the most sense. Alright, check the square again. We're good square-wise. Take the bit out, put it in. This would probably be handy if you had like 2 drills. You could do this and it'd be a lot faster. I've only got the 1 drill, so that's what I'm working on. Alright, so what I'm going to do next is starting to put the planks that go across now that we have everything pretty much straight. Let's see how many of these boards I actually have. And I'm not going to make you go and watch, sorry about the wind, I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch me do every last board onto this door. What I'm going to do is just show you the mock-up. And then once I have gotten close to being done with it, then I will come back and have you guys finish it off. I'm just debating right now though. What I did find out though is I have a way of having spacers. So these broken ends here became the perfect spacers from the other pallet or the other walls. So what I did was, here I'll start from the top. I'll start from here. I was spacing it out like this, and then the next one go. Like so. This might actually work out on these boards too if we put enough of them on here. We'll see though. Because this helps you at least stay straight and not have everything go cattywampus on you. You know what I'm gonna do? Hold on. Do it from here. Bam. Yeah, and then have these ones come up just a bit. There we go. Something like that. So, you know, it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical as far as gaps concerned. I just figured if you've got these, you might as well use them, you know? So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get all of these screwed down. All I'm doing is the same exact process I did for this board and then that top board up there. So it's not like you guys are missing anything. So what we're going to do is use this as a cross brace for the door, just to keep it strong and so we can't push or pop out of spot or pop out of place and stand up to any kind of wind storms. All four doors, or four walls, I'm sorry, are built exactly like this. And so what we're going to do is cut this off so it ties into all of the boards here, as well as the sides. And so that's about it. So let me go ahead and get set up to do this. That way we can get started. Alright, hi guys. I'm sorry if the wind today is not cooperating with the mic, so hopefully you guys aren't getting blown out by the sound of the wind in the mic. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to break this up into two parts at least, just because of the sheer amount of video that I recorded during this whole build process. And I kind of want to put it out there so maybe it could be of use maybe to somebody who's considering a project of this scale. So I figure not trying to monopolize all your time in one video was probably the better way to go about things. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to release this first video, and then the subsequent video or videos, because I have not quite gone through all of my footage just yet, will come out. I will try to get them all out within a week. That way you're not waiting like 2-3 weeks for a completion of a video. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and end this here, and then here in about 2 or 3 days do the next part, and then in a further 2 or 3 days, if needed, I'll do a third part. So I hope you guys got something out of this first initial part. If it gives you any kind of an idea, or if it helps you in any way so far, this part of the video, then let me know. If you guys have also thought about doing the same thing, let me know too. I'd be interested to hear that and how your guys' build went, or how simple or complicated that yours was. That'd be awesome. So I'm gonna end it here, and then like I said, we'll come back here in 2 or 3 days. All right, so see you guys there. I'm your boy Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil. See you guys later. All right.